big time with me. Let's move on. Our third inductee today will also be inducted posthumously. Deborah Gunn, daughter of Jim Gunn and Gertrude Buckingham. Debbie grew up on Liverpool Street in Point St. Charles along with her siblings, Trudy, Jim, and Bruce. Her parents active within the community, and she learned at a very young age the importance of giving back. She went on to raise 5 kids, managing to raise a family while living below the poverty line. She knew all too well the struggles that families can face, and she took her knowledge to share the warmth. She was part of many projects over the years and always tried to think of new ways to help her community. She was known both for her association with Share the Warmth, but also because of her huge heart. I'd like to welcome Debbie's daughter, Sabrina Perot, up to say a few words.
I'd like to start off by saying what an honor it is to be here today, accepting this acknowledgement on my mother's behalf. I would like to also take the time to congratulate all the other inductees and their families. All of the people being inducted today have demonstrated their love for the community and their dedication to helping. It truly is remarkable, so thank you. For some of you who did not know my mother, she was a staff member of Share the Warmth. She started as a volunteer through a social assistance initiative that was designed to help get people off the system and back into the workforce. Her contract was supposed to be 3 days a week, however she quickly decided that she would volunteer 5 days a week. She loved being at Share the Warmth and helping. By nature, she was a very nurturing woman. She truly enjoyed being able to help the people within her community. She would often say how much she needed Share the Warmth and how much they needed her. I remember visiting my mother for the first time at Share the Warmth and thinking, oh my God, I cannot believe this is where she spends her days. The organization started by operating out of a small house on Rushbrook Street. The offices were cramped and the house was fairly old, which meant that everything was on the verge of falling apart. However, what was remarkable was how everyone in the building knew exactly how every part of the building worked and utilized every inch, including the dirt basement. They all seemed to be completely aware of their limited environment, but came up with creative ways to operate, to ensure they can help as many people as possible. I remember watching how they received a large donation. They would all line up near the front of the house, near the big window, and use a wood plank as a ramp. They would then form an assembly line, and in no time, the big cube truck would be emptied and back on the road to get more donations. One of the big donations back in those days was socks. If you knew my mother, then at some point in your friendship with her, you definitely sorted and matched socks. I recall helping my mother sort through boxes upon boxes. We'd have to dig through the boxes to find the pairs. My mother took sock sorting very seriously and often would inspect our matches. Every time I do laundry and match socks, I think of that small room on Rushbrook Street, sitting with my mom and talking as we matched socks. Sorry. Okay, so the socks were being sold very cheap. I think it might have been something like 6 pairs for $1. The funny thing is that I would not have thought socks would be such a huge success. However, I guess being a mom of 5, she knew how quickly socks weared, and the sock initiative at Share the Warmth became a huge hit. People would stop my mom in the streets and ask her when she'd be getting more socks, and would also offer to help her match them, which meant I got out of it, thank goodness. I remember thinking, I can't believe people are excited about socks. But I really didn't think of the cost of socks for a family, and it wasn't until I became an adult and had to buy my own that I realized it could become very costly, especially of 5, 6, 7 children to provide for. Probably more for me now as an adult because I have a dog who has a sock fetish, so he goes through multiple pairs a month. Unfortunately, I lose socks. However, it was my mom's understanding of the struggle that truly made her an asset to Share the Warmth. She was all too familiar with living below the poverty line and trying to raise a family. Which is why I truly believe she was hired on full-time at Share the Warmth. She could share her experience and connect with the people living in Point St. Charles. Her own experience helped to raise awareness about the situation in Point St. Charles. She was often on CTV News, sharing her story with the media and promoting Share the Warmth. She wanted to reach as many people and donors to help their cause. Being a teenager and having your mom on the news talking about being poor wasn't ideal, However, lucky enough, not too many teenagers watched the news. What I failed to see then was how important it was. Her ability to speak so freely of her own experience and draw attention to the cause increased the amount of donors and volunteers. People who watched the segments or read the articles received a first-hand account of what was truly needed to help improve the neighborhood. My mom would often warn me when she was going to be on the news or in an article because she knew how embarrassed I would become. I was a teenager and obviously self-absorbed. I remember telling her that someone else could plaster their face all over the news, that it didn't have to be her. It took me a long time to accept her telling everyone how we grew up and about our struggles. I was embarrassed about being poor. The feeling of inadequacy and the stigmatism attached to being poor made me feel as though I wasn't as good as my peers. However, my mother was trying to change that perception. She was trying to draw attention to the inequality and the lack of opportunities for people living in poverty. The lack of tools and resources which was perpetuating the situation and creating a vicious cycle. The more she spoke about her experience, the more she encouraged others to change their situation and become a part of the solution. I'm so very proud that she was able to rise above her environment to become a contributor in the fight against poverty. One of my favorite programs that my mother partook in was Santa Day. Around Christmas time, Share the Warmth would host a Santa Day. They still do today. The children of the neighborhood would be able to come and have their picture taken with Santa and receive a gift. My mother would organize wrapping parties in the evenings. She would have volunteers come in during the evening and wrap all the presents for Santa. And of course, she'd be blaring her Motown and singing loudly for everyone. On Santa Day, my mother would dress up as an elf and have her family dress up too. We would all be there, helping to hand out presents and allowing our mother to boss us around for the day. She loved it. She loved seeing all the children smile and greeting the people of the community. Christmas can be a very difficult time for people who do not have much. However, Share the Warmth does a great job at helping families provide for their family at Christmas time. The Christmas baskets and presents distributed at Christmas time is remarkable, and I'm so very proud that my mom was a part of that. She would tell us stories about some of the families she helped and how grateful she was to be part of making someone's life a little easier during the holidays, as someone did for her years ago. Another great initiative that my mother helped start is the Back to School program, which goes back to fighting the feelings of inadequacy and lack of resources. As a mother of 5, she knew how hard it was to fulfill the school supply list and how it could be detrimental to a child's confidence in school. If a child has to wait a month or 2 until he or she can afford to buy the specific calculator they need, they're at risk of falling behind. So they started the school program, which allowed parents to come and get the school supplies for free for their children before the school year started. The program also allowed principals and teachers access to school supplies. Teachers were able to ask for supplies and were encouraged to leave them around the classroom for the children who would need them. One of the great things about Point St. Charles is our pride. However, it can also be our weakness. Often our pride can get in the way of us asking for help. So my mom always tried to find a way to take that into consideration when she was starting a project. By allowing the teachers and principals access to the program, she had a further reach to help the families who might felt too embarrassed or would prefer to remain anonymous. The Back to School program has changed a little bit over the years, however the mandate is still the same, to help children reach their full potential. Growing up, many of my friends would go to Girl Guides and Boy Scouts during the week and would talk about their weekend camping retreats. Unfortunately, Girl Guides was not an option to the children of Point St. Charles. So my mother decided to try and start a Girl Guides for Point St. Charles. Of course, my sisters and I were already too old, but we weren't too old to volunteer. Obviously, we became Girl Guide leaders and helped my mom start the very first Girl Guides for Point St. Charles. The project received funding from the Girl Guides organization, and all the girls who joined received their uniforms, badges, and a camping retreat for free. We would meet once a week and do various activities with our groups. It was a fun time and a proud moment for the Point. The girls were extremely grateful. A few years later, my mom started a women's group. I do believe she was a strong believer in promoting unity amongst girls and women. She wanted to be able to create a safe place for women to get together and talk. The women's group started meeting once a week at Share the Warmth. The women would sit around talking, drinking tea, and just enjoying each other's company. They also decided to take it one step further. They decided to do some volunteer work together, and one of their yearly projects was to go to Sun Youth Camp and help set up the cabins and play areas to ensure a clean and safe environment for the children. The women would spend the weekend together working and bonding. I must say, it was my favorite weekend of the whole year. It was always so nice to see how well the women worked together and how happy they were just hanging out. And I would tease my mother and say she was helping the competition. But it was a great collaboration. Sun Youth in return would send children from Point St. Charles to camp for free. My mother was an amazing woman and inspired so many. She was well known in the community. If I had to go anywhere with her in the Point, I knew that we'd be stopping frequently to speak to people, and I'd add time to our commute. People would come up to her and thank her or just ask her how she was doing. She was the definition of a giving person. She would always try to find a way to help someone in need, even if it meant putting their needs before her own. She was a proud Pointer and was usually the first one up to dance to the Harlem Shuffle. She tried countless times to teach us, however, none of us have her special twirl. If she were here with us today, she would have simply said that she was just doing her job. She failed to see how she went beyond the call of her job, and I'm not sure if she realized the impact she had on the community, which is why this award is so very special to us. It's sad that she isn't here today to accept this award, but I know she is here with us in spirit. We love you, Mom, and we're so very proud of you. We were very lucky that we got to call you Mom. Thank you so much for everyone who nominated our mother and loved her as much as we do. Thank you to all our friends and family members for coming here to help us celebrate today. And I'd also like to thank the Hall of Recognition Committee for making us a part of this wonderful day and continuing to help children achieve their full potential with their scholarship program. It's remarkable. Thank you.
Discovered the other secret to happiness, and it's dating underage men. Like not underage, if there's cops here, but like just right in the cusp, you know? Anyone here like dating younger men? I'm the only cougar, that's cool. All right, we got one, good. I don't know if you have this problem, but I find that the older I become, the younger my boyfriends seem to get. It's like they're turning into Benjamin Button. It's like I'm starting to have a midlife crisis and I can't afford a sports car, but I can afford a high school senior. So I did this college show last week, but then I get a closer look at these men, and I thought, wow, I might go to jail. And the worst part was, these guys weren't exactly checking me out either, as much as wondering if I was maybe one of their mom's friends. You know, showing up just to spy on them, or to run the bake sale. Not sure when that happened. So I do the show, it goes very well, obviously. And I'm about to leave, but I walk in the bathroom and I see this girl sitting on the bathroom floor, liquored up, tears just streaming down her face, you know, along with like her makeup and her chance at a scholarship, just gone. And she looks at me and she says, I think I may have had one too many. And I was like, no. You think? And then I noticed there's like a dozen other girls just kind of floating around her, like holding her hair and rubbing her back, and they're like, Katie, don't cry. We are gonna get through this together, because we are BFFs. It even said